What is up, Duke Nukem fans? Simon here. Welcome to HannaTalk. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic, especially on a day like this today, where it's quite muggy outside here in Melbourne, Australia. But to brighten things up a little bit, I am here with a very special guest. Now, he is an actor who is best known to fans as Duke Nukem from the Duke Nukem video game series, but he's also played across in various games such as Sonic the Hedgehog, Postal, and so much more. Please welcome the wonderful Jon St John.
Wow, I love the positivity. I love your attitude. You're very up, aren't you? You're very positively motivated and driven, aren't you?
Thank you for that, John. How are you?
Sure. I'm good. I'm good. I mean, things could be better. I am in the United States where things are not the greatest because of various reasons, but I personally am doing pretty good.
That's absolutely fantastic. And which actually goes into, like, obviously because of what's happening with the pandemic and the virus at the moment, how have you been keeping things up, especially on the acting side of things?
On the acting side, well, I record everything from home. It's not as fun as going to a studio, like going up to, to Burbank to Warner Brothers or any of those studios. Everything's done from home. But I have a very nice home studio. So they allowed me to record from here all the time now. And, business is not great. It dropped off quite a bit in the last couple of months because of the pandemic. And the industry is just starting to adapt to it and coming around to getting jobs going again.
Right. That's definitely true about that. And that seems to be the thing a lot of actors nowadays are going into home recording studios, which they've done since before this pandemic even struck. So,
Hmm.
but absolutely, I definitely agree on that. But that's absolutely great that like you're still keeping the acting going even despite of what's happening at the moment. But slowly but surely, and I say to a lot of the listeners out there, just take this one day at a time, and slowly it will get back to how it was before. So
Exactly.
that's exactly it right there. Now let's get
There's
started.
that positive attitude of yours again, Simon. Oh my gosh. Does anything ever get you down?
Yeah, it does.
But you don't talk about it. Good for you.
Thanks, John. Now, let's get started with the beginning of your career. How did you get started in acting?
Well, I started out, first of all, some drama classes in high school. At the same time, at 14 years old, I become a radio broadcaster in a small town in North Carolina. So, 1975 is when I started. So, for well over 45 years, I've been doing this. And so, radio led to a career as production director and morning show voice guy. I did the wacky character voices and celebrity voices on the radio for many, many years. And by coincidence, in about 1994 or 95, Lonnie Manella, one of the top casting directors in the video game biz at that time, popped into my studio to record an auto dealer ad. And the two of us hit it off, and I started doing crazy voices on the microphone for her. And she asked if I wanted to act in video games, and I said, "What? There's no acting in video games." She said, "Well, there's about to be." And she gave me the audition for Duke Nukem. I landed it, and the rest is kind of history. It snowballed.
Fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. And who would you consider to be like your influences?
Uh, Three in particular: Mel Blanc, because of his incredible range. Gary Owens, who was a radio DJ in Los Angeles in the 60s and also on the TV show Laugh-In that aired in the 60s and early 70s, and the comedian George Carlin. Those are the three who influenced me the most and made me want to pursue a career in broadcasting at a very young age.
Fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. And as you were mentioning about before, with having voice primarily across in video games, now a lot of voice actors have played across a variety of mediums, from animation right down to video games, but you're mostly known for staying within the video game world. What is it about the world of video games that kind of stood out to you, that got you to focus on that medium in particular?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. It is unionized. If you're doing anime, there's no union scale there, and the pay is very poor. So anime voice actors tend to do a lot of conventions appearances to make up for the low pay that they receive. Video games, like I said, is a unionized business, so when I go up to do a half-day job at, say, at Warner Brothers Studios, it pays really well. But that's not how I make my living either. Video games are few and far between, really. Commercial work is where I make the bulk of my income. Car dealer ads, carpet stores, mattress warehouses, you name it. I've been the voice of so many brands over the years, including for Anheuser-Busch, I was the voice of the Bud Light Party a couple of years ago. And those jobs pay really well. They're all union scale for the most part.
Right, right. That's fantastic. And now, as you were mentioning about before, with having worked across with video games, also working on advertisements and commercial work, will fans expect to see you in like an animated series at some point in the future, like a Western animated series?
Yes. However, it's not something I can talk about because of NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, where I'm not allowed to talk about it. But there is one upcoming. I have another special thing that I'm not under NDA for because it's something I'm creating. I'm actually bringing Duke Nukem back, not in a video game, not in an animation. That's all I can say for right now. But within days, or within at least a week from now, you will know what I'm talking about. Duke makes a return.
That's absolutely fantastic. That is wonderful. And
And
speaking,
I'm sorry to tease like that without giving you more information, Simon. I know that's frustrating, but I don't want to spoil the surprise quite yet. And I don't want anybody to steal my thunder and steal my idea. You know how that goes.
absolutely. No, that's just absolutely fantastic. That's wonderful. And with any of the projects that you've worked in the past, where you're playing a very like a main character in this, with any sort of project that you work on that's like a video game project, do you walk into like a project expecting to play a certain character or have an idea for what the project is, or is it like walking up to a Jack in the Box, not knowing what's going to pop out?
We never really know what it's going to be until we see artwork or until the director gives us an explanation of what the character is, what the background is, a little backstory on them. And I'm one of the few actors who prefers not to see artwork before I develop a voice for a character because I'm afraid I'll get pigeonholed into the voice I think suits that character, and that may not be what the director wants specifically. So when they send artwork to me, I generally don't open it up. I look at the specs for the character and then talk to the director and ask, what's the age range, what's the ethnicity of this person, where is this person from, what dialect, what texture of voice, do you want it gravelly, do you want it high pitched, do you want it low pitched, we go through all of that. And that's really how we develop the voice, at least for me. I think a lot of actors who do look at the artwork are capable of creating the right voice for the character they see. But if the director changes it on them, then they're able to adapt. And perhaps I don't adapt as easily because, like I said, once I see the artwork, I tend to want to stick with what I think is the right voice. And it's hard to get that out of your head, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. I definitely see that in that sort of perspective there. In that there's also like a variety of voice actors as well who when they walk into a project that has pre-existing material, in the case of anime, which is based on manga, or like any animated series that has been a franchise for as long as it has, they'll end up being fans of that before they get into that project. So they'll have a preconceived idea for what to expect from the character, for what to expect from the story. But there was actually one interview that I did with Joshua Cerf, who many fans will know from Digimon, where one bit of advice that he got from starting on the Digimon series was from one actor who said to him, "Don't read ahead, just be surprised." He said, "I want to be surprised when I go into a role. I don't want to go in with like preconceived ideas from like the manga or from like what this story arc is going to be like, what this character is going to end up going down this journey, that sort of thing." So
Yes, I can certainly relate to that. I mean, when you're reading the script, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You cut out.
no, that's all right. So, but you do have some voice actors, for example, like Aaron Roberts and Amber Lee Connors, who are huge fans of a lot of this sort of stuff, who've read the manga for a lot of the roles that they would eventually get into playing. So they would have an idea for what to expect in the story, but at the same time, they'd still want to be surprised because things can change from adaptation to adaptation, really.
That's true. That's true. And for me, for instance, I'll give you an example. Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition is where they replaced the Grayson character played by Steve Bloom with Duke Nukem. I did not read any of the scripted lines before the recording because I knew it was going to be outrageous and funny, and my reactions to the lines were more genuine because I didn't know it was coming. I didn't know where the story was taking us, and so I seemed surprised in a lot of the. Maybe the first take wasn't the right take because I laughed through it sometimes, due to the nature of that game. But not reading ahead kept me in place and in the moment, I think is the best way to put it, as far as the script and the storyline went.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely true. And across your entire career, have you ever turned down like a role or an audition for any particular reason?
Oh, yes, absolutely, I have. The most famous was early 2016 when the Trump campaign approached me about being the voice of Donald Trump's advertising campaign when he was running for president, and I turned it down. And I posted about it on Facebook, saying that I don't like to turn down, national type jobs because they pay so well and I could use the money, but I could not, in good conscience, be the voice of the Donald Trump campaign. And so it got picked up on Reddit and it went viral. The Huffington Post picked it up too. And because of that, an ad agency in New York City saw that story, and their creative director contacted me and said, "Wow, so you refuse to be Donald Trump's voice. You got to be the voice of the Bud Light Party for 2016. You've got the attitude." And it turned out to be the best paying job of my entire career, was doing a year's worth of ads that were on TV, the internet, and radio. And it was a good deal of money, and that's just proof right there that if you stick to your standards, your ethics, your morals, good things will happen.
Absolutely. I think that's a really great attitude to have on that. So that's just absolutely fantastic. Now, let's go across into some of your most prominent roles here. Now, your best known role is, of course, as Duke Nukem. What has it been like playing the character for so long?
Well, yeah, I've been the voice of Duke for so long, but I haven't played the character of Duke in so long. I mean, Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition goes back, what, 3 years now? That's the last time I recorded an actual Duke Nukem project. Um, and of course, you know how long it took for them to get Duke Nukem Forever done. It was like 14 years before I got to record a second game after, I think Manhattan Project might have been the last one I did before they finally came around with Duke Nukem Forever. Today, I keep Duke alive via cameos. I don't know if you're familiar with the Cameo app, but it's an app where you can get celebrities to send greetings to your friends for birthdays or anniversaries and that kind of thing. So on a daily basis, I'm still doing the Duke voice and actually making money doing it with the Cameo app. And that project I was telling you about earlier that's still kind of secret, that'll keep the Duke voice alive for a few more years, I'm pretty sure.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. And speaking a little bit more with regards to Duke Nukem, now there was reports going about that they were planning to do a live-action Duke Nukem film with John Cena, but I think you confirmed on social media last year that that film was no longer in development. Is that still true?
At the moment, it is not in development. I can tell you very little about it because they don't want me to talk about it. But I can tell you that when Gearbox was working with a production company, I won't name them, in Hollywood, um, they were not happy with the direction it was going. And so Gearbox said, okay, never mind. They pulled it back. And I believe they still want to make the movie. I think they have a script, and I'm pretty sure that John Cena will play Duke Nukem if and when they ever get around to making the movie. I've got my fingers crossed for it. Anything to keep Duke alive makes me happy, and I'd like to see Duke become a more mainstream, a household kind of name. I mean, to us in the gamer community, Duke is famous, but to average Joe around the world, yeah, most people don't know who he is. So I personally would love to see that film made. Giving me a Stan Lee type cameo role would be great. Wink, wink. And so there's nothing in the works at the moment, but I know this is something that Gearbox wants to do at some point. They want to team up with Hollywood and make a Duke Nukem movie. I think it all depends on, do they get a good enough script? Do they get the right treatment? And several other variables. I mean, it's a complicated process making a film, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Absolutely, that's definitely fantastic, and that would be amazing to get like have the voice of Duke Nukem have like a full Stanley cameo. That would be amazing, and to
Damn right it would.
and to all my listeners out there who will be listening to this interview once it's finally up on YouTube, let me know in the comments. Leave a like or a comment if you really want to see Jon St John have a full Stanley type cameo in the live action Duke Nukem movie. That would just be so awesome.
Oh, bless you. That would make my life.
That would be amazing. And actually, speaking a little bit more with regards to video games being adapted for film, how do you feel about video games being adapted for live action?
Well, I like the idea. Unfortunately, they haven't done well historically. I mean, I can't name a single video game. Well, no, I can. I guess the Sonic the Hedgehog movie did okay, but I got to be honest with you, and fans aren't going to like this. I did not think it was a very good movie. I like Jim Carrey and his performance, but I thought the story was really weak, and it just, it didn't do anything for me. But again, like I said, historically, video games turned movies don't do well. But I'm pretty sure that a Duke movie could do pretty good because it would be outrageous. And I think that's the thing they need. Go over the top, and maybe you can attract a whole new audience and sell a lot of tickets. Who knows?
Absolutely. I think that's definitely a really good. I think that's definitely true in that fact. In fact, I was interviewing Danielle McRae yesterday, and she spoke, and I asked her the same question, and her answer to that was the way that I see it is that yes, obviously in the fact that video games being adapted for films, they've had a very bad history or bad record in that fact, up until I think they did Detective Pikachu and of course Sonic the Hedgehog, which in my opinion broke the curse a little bit in that fact.
Perhaps.
At least that's the way that I see it. And she said that the way that I look at it is that people who actually go to watch these movies, they have no idea that they're based on video games, but once they go see them, that's going to get more people to go and play the games and look up more about them and say, oh wow, they're based on a video game character. I want to play these games.
Yeah, with any luck, it has that effect. Yes.
So even though despite the fact the films based on games have been very hit and miss, they're attracting some positivity in that it's getting more fans going towards the games in that fact. In the same way that with the superhero movies, whether Marvel or DC, it's getting more people into knowing about these iconic characters and reading the comics like to non-comic book fans. So, yeah, that's the way that I see it, really.
I agree with you.
So, and I think that's a really great attitude to have. And speaking about, of course, with Sonic the Hedgehog, that's also another series that you're best known for playing, but particularly as Big the Cat and E123 Omega. What was it like playing across the world of Sonic the Hedgehog?
You know, the character was that was very unusual. When they did Sonic Adventures and Sonic Heroes, Lonnie Manella, who originally cast me as Duke Nukem, she was directing and casting over here in the States for it. And as I recall, she gave me a phone call at home one Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon that I was off work and said, hey, John, we're recording a new game this Saturday. I want you to come on down and fill a role. I said, great, send me the sides and I'll audition. She goes, no, don't worry about it. You don't need to audition. This is a simple job for you. Just show up at the studio and I'll show you the character artwork. And so that Saturday morning, I show up at the studio where all the other actors are already recording, and she shows me the artwork of Big the Cat, and I looked at it and I said, what the hell is that? She said, that's Big the Cat. And I said, yeah, it's certainly big and purple and kind of looks like a cat. She goes, yeah, so the voice is kind of dumb. And I went, what do you mean? She goes, I want you to sound dumb. Okay. So they put me in the booth, and the director from Tokyo was on the line, and Lonnie turned on the director's mic and said, okay, John, give us a stupid sounding voice. My froggy, you don't look so good, little buddy. What happened to my froggy? Anyway, I'm just kidding. I'll do something better. And the Japanese director, I hear in the background on the phone going, and Lonnie goes, nope, they love that. That's going to be the voice. Do it. That's pretty much how that happened. The Omega E123 Omega voice, the robot voice, that wasn't acting. When you speak like this with absolutely no inflection whatsoever and you're just reading words, I cannot call that acting. That's just reading. So that's how I saw that role.
That's fantastic.
There's no a totally emotionless robot. That's not acting.
That's fantastic. That's
yeah,
just absolutely
I got
wonderful.
paid for it too, so that was cool.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, when people think of Sonic the Hedgehog in that fact, they also think of the they don't just think of the actual games, but they also think of, even before the live action movie came about, they also think of the animated series that Sonic the Hedgehog was based on, from Sonic Boom to Sonic X, and the original Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon from back in the 90s. Have you watched any of the animated series?
I had seen very little of the animated series. I was familiar with the original game that came out before I was cast, but the original series, I had only heard of it. I had never actually seen it.
Right, fantastic. And speaking of it, of course, a little bit more with regards to Sonic the Hedgehog, because now it's been confirmed they're developing a sequel to the live action movie, and of course there's going to be more Sonic the Hedgehog games down the line. What do you hope to see in the future with Sonic the Hedgehog in terms of stories and ideas, not just for the films, but also for the games as well? What would you personally want to see?
Oh, well, I'd personally like to see them cast me as Big the Cat again, quite frankly. Just before they killed him off, they recast, and Sega has a bad habit of recasting the voices over and over and over again. So from game to game, and from game to animation, and from animation to film, they keep changing the cast. There's no consistency whatsoever. I would like to see them go back to being consistent again. But anyway, like I said, before they killed him off, they took the role from me and gave it to Kyle A. Bear, who's a friend of mine. I love Kyle. He's a great guy. And he did a good kind of dumb voice like this, too, for Big the Cat. But then Sega killed him off. They said, okay, no more Big the Cat, and that was the end of him. Now it appears that he's back again, and I don't even know who's playing the Big the Cat role, but they certainly have not approached me about it. So as far as where they're going with the storyline in the games, unless they're going to cast me, I don't really have a great deal of interest, to be honest. Sorry to sound apathetic, but, I am.
Well, no, that's absolutely fantastic. And I think, without trying to get into any spoilers for any of the listeners out there who've not seen the live-action Sonic the Hedgehog movie, just be sure to watch through the entire movie. There's a post-credit scene that's a very big deal, because they've went for some really big deep cuts in that post-credit scene. So if they can manage to get after some of the actors from the original animated series, as well as from the games, in that fact, fingers crossed. Leave a like or a comment if you really want to see Duke Nukem himself be in the next Sonic the Hedgehog film, because that would be fantastic. That would be so amazing.
Oh, dude. I would love it. And Big the Cat would love it too. It would be fun to appear with my froggy again.
That would be so fantastic.
I hate that cat. That cat really pisses me off.
And speaking about, of course, a little bit more with Sonic, now there was a crossover game, there was actually a few crossover games done with Sonic the Hedgehog and also with the Mario Brothers. How did it feel having those two franchises do a few crossovers together?
Yeah, I'm not actually familiar with them. I have not seen that work. It's funny, I think you, like a lot of fans, assume that I'm a gamer, and I'm not. I'm a voice actor. I'm going to be 60 at the end of this year. And where I used to play video games a long time ago, 20, 30 years ago, back when TurboGrafx 16 was out, that was my favorite gaming platform. I played a lot of games. But you know what? When my son turned about 12 years old many years ago, and he started kicking my ass within seconds of playing a game, that's when I kind of lost interest, to be honest.
No, but that's absolutely no, that's no problem at all. But that's really good though. I just found it absolutely mind-boggling in the fact that you have that they had two of the most iconic characters in video game history from two different types of franchises. In the fact of Mario belonging to Nintendo and Sonic belonging to Sega, just having them cross over like that, and I think the possibilities of them doing crossovers with any project would be amazing. But if you wanted to see a crossover between any two video game projects, what would you want that crossover to look like? What characters would you want to see crossover?
Oh, I wouldn't mind seeing Duke Nukem and Lo Wang, the Shadow Warrior, together. I think that could be crazy cool.
That would be absolutely fantastic. Fingers crossed something like that is going to happen because that would be amazing. And
I
moving
agree.
and moving across into another character you're also known for, you also played the Postal dude, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Is it Postal? Is that correct?
Oh no, it's postal. It's just like going postal, like the mail carrier.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great role too. Talk about some great lines, man. He's a dirtbag. I love playing that part.
Fantastic. What was it like playing that character and in the game itself?
Well, it's just different lines that I'm reading. It's funny. I've been asked that question in so many interviews over the years. People going, "What was it like doing that session? What was it like?" Well, it was like every other session. I'm in a little booth with a microphone and headphones and a script in front of me, and the director going, "Okay, let's do another take on that one and change it up a little bit." They were funny lines, but I'm not living the part necessarily. So it was just another recording session, just sillier than most.
But no, that's absolutely fantastic, and that's really great to see. And where do you hope to see yourself with regards to acting in the long run?
Still alive following the pandemic, hopefully. Um, um, I'd like to land more video game roles, but to be honest with you, animation is what I have the greatest interest in, and I'll tell you honestly, that is a really, really tough nut to crack. Um, Most of the voice actors who are doing animation, like I don't mean anime, I mean cartoons, live in Hollywood, live in the Los Angeles area. I live 2 hours south of LA in San Diego because the quality of life here is so much better than being in LA and sucking smog every day and being stuck in traffic and all the phony plastic people who are there. It's all true. All the stories you've heard, they're all true. It's a hell on earth being in Los Angeles, I'll tell you that. But I would love to land some animation roles at some point. The problem is, you really have to be there rubbing elbows with the right people, making the right connections with directors and producers and animators if you want to get into that. And I choose not to live in Los Angeles, so it's really hard to hobnob and to network with these people when I live 2 hours south in San Diego. But I do have, like I mentioned, some projects coming up, smaller animated projects, but I would love someday to get on a series, something akin to Rick and Morty or Family Guy. I like funny cartoons. Those are my two favorites, quite frankly. And if I could land a role in shows like that, I would be a pig in you know what. I would be so happy. That's my goal.
That would be fantastic. And to all the listeners out there, let me know in the comments. Do you want to see Jon St John guest star in Rick and Morty or Family Guy? Leave a like or a comment if you really want to see that happen, because that would be fantastic.
And
And
some of my other voice actor friends are typically on Rick and Morty. I see their names come up all the time. And they all live in the LA area, and I'm pretty sure that's why they're landing those roles. So thank you for that survey question. Maybe something will come of it within a
absolutely,
month.
absolutely, that would be fantastic. And looking across your entire career as an actor, what would you say was the most challenging role for you to play as an actor?
You mean for the actually acting or for the vocal stress of it all? Can you be specific?
I guess we could say both on that sort of aspect, but really just more on the voice kind of role, or even the acting sort of role.
Well, I find acting fairly simple. Once I understand the character, I just sink myself into it and play the role. So the acting part is fairly simple. It's the vocal stress that can be very difficult. There was a game I did back in the late '90s called Twisted Metal. Actually, it was Twisted Metal 4. And where I play all of the male cast in the entire game. I'm Garbage Man and Rob Zombie, and all the male cast members are me. But one in particular, which was the Sweet Tooth the Clown spokesperson, I did my takeoff of the Crypt Keeper from HBO. I don't know if you recall that character from Tales of the Crypt.
I've heard of Tales of the Crypt, but I don't think I ever watched the series though.
Well, it was a voice something like this, boys and girls. And screaming the Crypt Keeper's, my takeoff of the Crypt Keeper's voice for a 4-hour session was extremely stressful vocally. And when I left the session, my voice literally sounded like this for several days. And so to this day, now when auditions are sent out, there is, for video games, there is always a disclaimer at the bottom of the email that says, caution, this work may be vocally stressful. And the reason they have to tell us that is because, if you scream in a voice like this for several hours, and the next day you're like this, obviously you can't do any work the next day or any auditions. So they have to warn us. But yes, Twisted Metal 4 was the one that I found the most difficult to do. Screaming like that for 4 hours straight through was quite a challenge.
Wow, that's just insane. That's crazy. And looking across your entire career, has there been like one character or series that you've ever wanted to play or ever wished that you played as an actor?
You mean a video game series?
Yes.
Sure, I would like to be a part of the Borderlands games. I think they're going to be doing a Borderlands 4 down the road, and I'm constantly poking at folks over at Gearbox to get me in, on the action, because Borderlands I think is very cool. I've watched players on the game. I've tried it out myself a little bit. I think it's a fascinating game, and I'm hoping that I can be a part of that down the road. Who knows? It could happen, but that's a franchise that I really like.
That would be absolutely fantastic. That would definitely be amazing, and especially from myself, having I think I've got up to about, I think, 3 of the Borderlands games. Borderlands 2, the pre-sequel, and I think Borderlands 3 as well. Or I think it must be the first one that I have, and they are absolutely amazing games and very fascinating and very dark comedy. In that fact, it's just like. That would be amazing as like a live action film or TV series. It would be amazing if they would pull off something like that. And I definitely would picture.
And you really keyed on it there, Simon. It's the dark comedy, the dark humor. Obviously, that's what I'm into. I mean, if you ever played a Duke Nukem game, and I'm really into those, that's what I like.
Absolutely, and I think, absolutely, I think you would be fantastic in that. That would be amazing. So, all the listeners out there, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen, because that would be fantastic.
Yeah. All of you, flood Gearbox with requests for me to be in the next Borderlands game. Come on, let's do it.
And that would be so fantastic. And looking across your entire career, what would you say has been like the one role that resonates with you the most?
Gotta be Duke Nukem, without a doubt.
Fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. And of course, having been in the voice acting industry for as long as you have, what has been your view on where the voice acting industry stands within the entertainment industry? What has been your view on that? Where the voice acting industry?
I lost you. Are you there? Hello?
There. Yes.
Oh, you're gonna have to start that one again, Simon. I couldn't hear you.
That's sorry about that. All right. So, having been in the voice acting industry for quite a long time, what has been your view on where the voice acting industry stands within the entertainment industry?
Fairly strong, actually. Like I mentioned earlier, ever since the business unionized, that's made it a stronger, more cohesive group of actors. And the only issue I have today with the industry in general is that everybody and their brother wants to be a voice actor. Unfortunately, everybody is, how do I put this kindly? Not everybody has the chops. For instance, and I used to teach voice acting classes here in Southern California, and I would tell students, just because your family members and your friends go, wow, you have a great voice, you should be a voice actor, that doesn't mean you should be a voice actor, trust me. If somebody in the industry tells you, wow, you've got a great voice, you should be doing this, I would then take that seriously. But there are a whole lot of people out there flooding the market. I mean, there are websites for voice actors such as voice123.com, which is a site where you go to hire voice actors, and there are tens of thousands of people on it, and a lot of them are hacks that don't have much talent, but they're charging, $35, $45 for a voiceover, and they're killing the market. They're killing us. They're driving down the prices. And a lot of people don't have the ear to know what sounds great and what doesn't. And it's unfortunate that since so many people want to be in the industry, it's flooded with non-talents. And I know that sounds harsh, but the true talent rises to the top. But when there's too many out there, it drives down the prices that we can all command for our roles. And that makes it harder to make a living as a voice actor.
I definitely understand from that point of view in that fact. I mean, I definitely can see where that comes from in that fact. It's like the old expression, if too many cooks spoil the broth, in that way.
Yes.
But no, I think that's definitely true on that fact. And you obviously spoke a little bit about some of the current projects that you, like, especially a really big Duke Nukem project. That I'm not going to allow you to spoil anything for that. But without going into any spoilers, for the fans out there, what's next for Jon St John?
Well, hard to say until this pandemic ends and I can get back to doing, normal business and convention appearances and such. But what's next for me personally is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I became a convention organizer several years ago. I've appeared at so many cons over the years, I finally decided I wanted to have my own convention, but I did not want it to be a typical land-based convention, so I created what's called King Con Cruise, which is in association with Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. I now have a fan convention on a cruise ship every year. Our last one was this past February, where we sailed from Galveston, Texas to Cozumel, Mexico, and I bring along celebrity guests. Next March of 2021, we're cruising from Florida to the Bahamas, and my guests include Wes Johnson from the Fallout series and from Elder Scrolls. I've got DC Douglas coming along. He's Albert Wesker in Resident Evil. And several other guests are coming along as well. And what we do is we sell badges and cabins to attendees who get to spend a full week with us doing adventures. So you're not just going to a panel to see the voice actors, you're actually going kayaking with them. You're having dinner with them every night. You're going snorkeling with them. It's actual real adventures in the Bahamas with the voice actors interacting directly with the attendees. And it's becoming quite successful. Here on our third year, we've already outsold the previous 2 years, which is quite a feat considering there's a pandemic in place right now. And most people, you say cruise ship, they cringe and they go, oh my God, cruise ship, that's like what Petri dish of the seas. Well, unfortunately, that's the way people feel right now, but we still sold more tickets for our upcoming cruise than we have in previous years. So clearly, this is something fans really love, and I'm excited to be the host and the owner of King Con Cruise. If you want to check it out, all you have to do is go to kingconcruise.com, and you can see all about it.
That's absolutely amazing. That is fantastic. And definitely a very different sort of idea from the typical kind of standard you would expect from comic conventions, in that it's really just a fusion of like a cruise with a comic convention, but just taking it right to the extreme, which is just absolutely amazing and brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, talk about immersive. I mean, when you're actually hanging out with the voice voice actors having adventures with them, as opposed to at a typical con. You see them at a panel, you get an autograph or whatever. You may see them hanging out in the bar, but aside from that, the voice actors, for the most part, go back to their rooms and relax and disappear, and your interaction with them is just that time during a panel. With the King Con cruise, the entire week you're having dinner with us every single night in the formal dining room and hanging out, having adventures with us every day. It's really cool.
That's absolutely fantastic. That is just absolutely wonderful. And final question, what do you think Duke Nukem would say if he was in Australia?
I'm going to go down under so hard. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'll throw another shrimp on the Barbie. Wait a minute, where's Barbie? Bring her here. Flip her over. Yeah, Duke is a misogynistic SOB, isn't he?
No, that's absolutely fantastic. That's wonderful.
He may be politically incorrect, but to this day, Duke is still hilarious, I think.
That's fantastic. That's just wonderful. Jon St John, thank you so much. It's been an honor.
It has been my pleasure. And Duke, come over here and tell him what you wanted to say. Hey, Simon, your face, your ass, what's the difference? Come on, Duke. That's inappropriate, dude.
Thank you so much, Duke. That's just wonderful. And is there anything you would like to say out there to the fans in Australia and in the world?
Yes, AvCon in Adelaide. Invite me back. I loved my time in Australia back in, what year was it? 2014? Yeah, 2014 was the last time I was there. And Australia is, if I could afford to pack everything up and move to live there, I would do it in a heartbeat. I spent time in Adelaide and really enjoyed it. I spent time in Sydney, and I was fascinated by how clean and lovely and modern the city was. The only thing I missed, I think, is your neighborhood. You're in Melbourne, aren't you?
I am, yes. Yes,
Yeah,
I
and
am.
I'm told Melbourne is the party capital of Australia, so I missed out. And if there's a convention in Melbourne that I should be a part of, help me out, Simon. I want to come party with you guys and teach those Australian girls, those Aussie girls, that they really cannot keep up with me when it comes to shots of tequila. I proved that in 2014. I'd love to come back and do it again.
That would be so fantastic. That would be
Yes, it would.
amazing. Absolutely. That would be fantastic. And we'll definitely make it happen because that would be so fantastic. And
Thank you.
well, guys, if you would like to find out more about Jon St John, you can check out the links to his work, which I'll put to in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to HannaTalk. Click that bell to get notifications. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. Check out the links below, and as well as comment below as well. Thank you all so much for listening. This is Simon and Jon St John signing off.
Thank you.
Bye for now.